Hello and welcome to today's 44th webinar in the On the Move webinar series, How to Find DC Automation Solutions That Really Work, brought to you by Honeywell Intelligrated. I'm Tracy Niehaus, Director of Marketing for Honeywell Intelligrated, and I'm your moderator today. We have just a few announcements before we begin. Please note that this presentation's audio is provided by phone number or through your computer's sound system, so be sure to turn up your computer's volume. You may ask an online question at any time throughout today's presentation in the Q&A feature along the bottom of your screen. Simply type your question into the text area and hit send. Questions will be addressed at the conclusion of the presentation, with the exception of technical questions that can be asked and will be answered real time. A Wi-Fi connection may result in lag times in slides updating and graphics loading, so we do recommend that you be hardwired when attending this webinar. Today's webinar includes polling questions. Please feel free to answer these questions when they appear and be sure to click submit so we can include your response, as we will be sharing the results real time during the live event. And if you'd like to revisit key sections of today's webinar, it will be available on demand at intelligrated.com/on the move approximately 48 hours after this live event. And you'll also receive an email in a couple of days with a link to the recorded event. Now on to the presentation, How to Find DC Automation Solutions That Really Work. Discussing today's topic will be Stephen Dreyer, Product Manager for Honeywell Robotics. Since 2016, Stephen has worked as Honeywell Robotics Product Manager, where he strives to bring transformative robotics technologies to market and change outcomes through innovation, commercial excellence, and attention to customers. Previously, he worked for nearly 9 years as a product manager for a machine vision solutions provider, primarily serving companies producing fast-moving consumer goods, after almost a year there as a product develop engineer. There, he collaborated with various company departments to help prioritize product development, including new service products. Stephen also worked for 5 years as a mechanical engineer in the fluid power industry, where he engaged in all phases of product development from initial concept through to production. Also presenting today will be Eric Hardy, Vice President of Robotic Solutions Offerings for Honeywell Robotics. Eric brings more than 15 years of international experience to Honeywell Robotics, with a strategy and marketing background in developed and emerging markets. In his current role, he is responsible for robotics solutions offering, developing and executing the robotics offering, ranging from fixed robotics to mobile robotics in e-commerce, retail, parcel, and micro-fulfillment environments. Prior to his current role, he led strategic marketing for Honeywell Intelligrated, developing the company's global growth strategy focused on organic growth through the connected distribution center and robotics, as well as inorganic growth through M&A and venture capital investments. Before joining Honeywell Intelligrated, Eric led strategy and marketing for Honeywell in Turkey and Central Asia. He has previous experience as a strategy consultant at Booz & Company and as Director of Strategic Planning at Siemens. And with those introductions, our webinar will now begin.
Excellent. Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate the introduction. As Tracy introduced me, my name is Stephen Dreyer, Product Manager for Robotics. I want to talk to you today about the challenges, and then after that, we'll do a poll question, and then I'll pass it off to Eric Hardy to speak about some of the benefits and solutions. So warehouses and logistic companies are continually being challenged by increasing demands of e-commerce. And growing convenience of online ordering has been a longstanding trend as consumers get more comfortable with buying online and as delivery options become more appealing. The pandemic has accelerated the trend, pushing more buyers online, particularly baby boomers, who tended to be more resistant to online purchasing. Not surprisingly, this demographics adoption curve has seen a significant spike over the past 9 months, and that's very unlikely to revert post-pandemic. And then finally, there's a greater diversity of SKUs that increase direct-to-consumer orders, leading to dramatic volume increases in e-commerce. If you want to flip to the next slide. So worker turnover in industry is 33% on average, and this can be much higher in specific tasks. A lot of the workers in this industry tend to be on the older side, so 55 years or older, and heading for potentially for retirement over the next couple of years. And even before the pandemic, there weren't enough workers to fill the roles. In the research that we've done, 5 out of 6 positions went unfilled because there just weren't enough bodies to fill those roles. The labor market is expected to continue to tighten over the next decade, and that leaves companies competing for the same shrinking pool of resources, which are essential to meeting the demand that we talked about in the previous slide. If you want to flip to the next slide. So automation and robotics are logical solutions to address these challenges. There's a lot of robotic technology on the market, but unfortunately, many of them can't address the unique demands of modern distribution centers. Majority of existing logistics solutions providers fail to meet the market or technical requirements critical to DCs, or they lack the infrastructure necessary for full-scale implementation. So where can you go to find DC automation solutions that really work? We're going to talk about this in the next section, as mentioned, with Eric. But before we get there, I wanted to put a poll question out to the audience to find out what are some of the challenges that you face. So you should see on your screens a pop-up here of a poll question. Which challenge do you see as the biggest driver in your operations? Is it e-commerce demand, scarce labor, or solutions that don't deliver results? And we'll wait a minute here while we get your feedback and then talk about it briefly.
Hi, everyone. This is Eric Hardy. While we're waiting, I wanted to jump in and say hi before we kick that off. And thank you, Stephen, for covering that. Oh, looks like we got the results. Stephen, you want to walk through this?
The scarce labor, it's interesting how close they are. Certainly scarce labor is what we keep hearing about from our customers. So it's not surprising that that's the one that took the top spot. Interesting that e-commerce demand is right next to it.
Yeah, and the interesting part, or e-commerce demand not only affects e-commerce players, but it has a rippling effect impacting the parcel players who deliver to houses and whatnot, offices, houses, and places where people want their packages delivered. So that has a ripple-on effect there. All right, well, with that, I will get into the solution. So at Honeywell Robotics, we're offering our robotic solution design services. So until now, there hasn't really been a single source solution to all these problems. Honeywell Robotics decided to create one. It's called Robotic Solution Design Services. And it's designed to help you to explore how robotic technologies can be leveraged to solve real-world challenges and take innovative ideas from concept to reality. And from that aspect, it's starting out with concepts, working through a simulation to prototype, alpha, beta, and then a full system integration. And we'll work with you all along the way through that. So we use this, we take these innovative ideas and bring that concept to reality. In this way, you can find and really optimize your robotic solutions that meet your unique needs of your operation. You'll also get a highly accurate estimate of the overall throughput and performance you can expect to receive. And you'll be getting that before you even break ground or begin to build the site or work on site integration. Think of it all as like a one-stop shop, not just for robots, but for all the expertise and experience and focus needed to take a robotic program from concept through full-scale deployment, even if you have an automation challenge that no one solved before. So within this offering, we have 2 levels of service. So robot cell design, which you see up here, and then robotic system design, which is taking the whole integrated solution into account here and working on that design. And as I mentioned before, the robotic cell design services, those are focused primarily on developing a robotic cell from concept to a stage that will determine the viability in the real world. And we use simulations and prototype designs through the alpha builds to build out and prove your concepts before going into site integration. The robotics design system, that helps to define how the robotic technology can be used in a complete automation system. These services include simulation, software architecture, and feature analysis, system modeling, and a full system view into the use and integration of robotic solutions into a full and complete automation solution. So we offer a host of design services. As I mentioned earlier, we're not just talking about robots. Anyone can sell you a robot. A lot of people will claim to be a provider of integration that you need. So anyone can sell you a robot, and a lot of people will claim to be able to integrate that into a solution that you need. But developing these solutions that work in DCs requires the expertise that most robotic providers don't have. Honeywell Robotics offers a host of robotic design services that you won't find in one place anywhere else. First, you'll have access to some of the industry's top robotic experts and logistics experts who provide the engineering and services required to concept and design your solution. They work with a robust pool of advanced tools, from digital simulation and physics-based emulation to prototyping, 3D printing, and more. You'll also benefit from the full breadth of Honeywell Intelligrated's decades of experience in material handling and capability to deploy solutions at scale. Here's how the process works. First, we start with strategic consulting with our OSD group, our Operations and Solution Development. We start with this strategic consulting, designing and simulation data-driven solutions for both greenfield and brownfield operations. Based on this, we recommend advanced automation to solve your specific fulfillment and supply chain challenges. You'll also get consulting expertise in facility layout, concept design, material flow, and warehouse operations. And your support just doesn't end there. Honeywell Robotics will remain engaged throughout the project's lifecycle to ensure your operation and business readiness. So let's talk more about these design services. Honeywell Robotics Solution Design Services fall into three primary groups. The first being solution concepting, then robotics design, and finally solution deployment. Let's look at each in turn. So the first, which I mentioned, was solution concepting services. Here, this enables you to work with Honeywell as a robotic solution development partner to concept and develop the viable robotic solution based on your unique needs. We'll help you to define and clarify the idea, challenge, and provide robotic concept approaches and valuable insights. So we start with the concept, which we represent out here. And you'll see through the graphics that we have here, we work through concept all the way to full system integration. Here you'll see the graphics laid out with some circles surrounding the main circle. And through simulation, we'll tighten that up and start to connect those and build it into a full solution. So at the concept stage, which I mentioned before, we'll define what the robot looks like, how it's configured, and what tooling it uses, how it will interface with the rest of your operations, and beyond. Then the next step, which I mentioned, is simulation. That's down here, which we showed with this graphic. That takes you to the next step by putting that concept in motion, simulating the speed, the forces that the system will encounter, or other factors that you're looking to prove or explore. We found this is a valuable way to prove unknowns before you begin spending money on actually building the hardware. So the next phase is robotic design services. Here we're taking prototypes and building them into alpha machines. Here, compared to the graphic before, we're connecting these dots and these pieces into a tighter solution. Then when you bring it into the alpha solution, it brings it into an even more tighter solution, pulling it closer together to the final solution. So the second category is robotic design services. These services are focused on taking the solution concept and getting it to the stage that will determine its viability in the real world. At the prototyping stage, we establish proof of concept, which to mitigate risks associated with the development process and work out any other dynamics based on your unique challenges or product mix. From there, we move on to the alpha design, which helps us to understand how all the various components of the solution will go together and interact. From this stage, we move to the next stage, which is solution deployment services. Here you'll see that this is all tightened into 2 circles here, and we're doing some improvements on this in the represented by the dotted line. Down below, we move it into full system integration, where you see that dotted line becomes a fixed line and really pulls that all together. I really wanted to walk through and explain these graphics so you can understand what we're trying to demonstrate here. So in this phase, now the site integration of advanced robotic solution isn't something to be taken lightly. That's why we have a third category here, which we call solution deployment services. These services focus on integrating robotic solutions into a fully functional system. This includes any beta machine engineering activity needed to ensure your solutions performs to expectations in a real-world environment, minimizing your risk with safety and technical assessments, and ensuring that it's seamlessly integrated into your operations. And that's moving into this final area of full system integration, where we get it up and running and functioning in your site through deployments and rollouts. Now, as I mentioned, there are a lot of people out there who are eager to sell robots. So why partner with Honeywell Robotics? Well, there's a lot of good reasons. And let me step through them here. So first is our operations and solution design group, the design service experience that we have. We have a team of experts that have worked in the industry for multiple years that roll out and look at the designing these solutions and what's the best fit for your needs. Honeywell Robotics is uniquely situated with Intelligrated. So we have a portfolio of traditional and robotic solutions to meet your needs. We also bring a robust software offering with Momentum, which is our West offering. In addition to that, we have integration capabilities with over 25 years of a robotic experience and doing robotic safety risk assessments as well. And we are an RIA, or Robotic Industry Association certified robotic integrator. We also, with our team, bring a deep understanding of warehouse operation and experience and expectations. Within this too, with Honeywell Intelligrated, we have the ability to execute at scale. So that's not just rolling out one system or one pilot, but rolling it out to a larger system of 25 or even hundreds of installations. So we do this with our LSS organization, or lifecycle support. They keep those systems running in our aftermarket services and allow us to scale up and maintain those in the future as well. So to sum everything up, the key function of Honeywell Robotics Solution Design effort is to ensure that your operational requirements are met and that the equipment selection supports your capital investment expectations. We are able to support you at every step of the process, from robotic design to the planning of your building layout, to the equipment design, to simulations and software assessment. And then rolling this into the implementation phase, as well as the aftermarket support, which I talked about earlier. So whether your design is simple or complex, and regardless of the level of on-site support you need, the scope and deliverables we can provide are custom tailored to your exacting requirements, and can include any of the services that you see here on this slide here. So we talked about most of these before. So greenfield site evaluations, facility retrofit planning, detailed drawing packages, simulations, which we talked about before, detailed system descriptions, the schedule preparation and program management of installing these systems and getting that rolled out and scaled out through your system, as well as the aftermarket support as well. So our ultimate goal here is to create an implementable solution that gives you the confidence that all the operational requirements are met with the best and most economic solution, backed by a plan that offers a trouble-free transition into your unique distribution or fulfillment operations. So with that, we'll open it up for any questions. Tracy, have we received anything in the meantime?
We have, Eric. So thanks so much to you and Stephen for that presentation. And as Eric mentioned, we're going to move on to the question and answer portion of our event. And as a reminder to our attendees, you may ask an online question in the Q&A feature along the bottom of your screen. But I will go ahead and get started with the ones that we've received. So our first question is, when you develop a system design, do you only consider robotic solutions, or do you compare their efficiency with human workers or conventional systems like conveyors?
So thanks, Tracy. Stephen, if you don't mind, I'll tackle this one first.
Yep.
So what we do is we consider all cell inputs and outputs, the layout, the fit, current or planned operations, the robotic equipment, and human capabilities. If it runs into an end-to-end solution, we also consider the overall system. As with all solutions, we consider non-robotics components as well to deliver value. And really what we work on, we've run a couple different comparisons of what is the ROI you're going to get compared to the current situation with the current labor situation, the current workforce that you have there, and the current layout. Compared to conventional systems, so putting in conveyor and whatnot, sortation, to what will this look like with the robotic solution? We really take that all into account when doing this, and are able to estimate that, working in conjunction with our OSD team and our various solution offering teams as well.
Okay, thank you. Next question. How accurate are the simulations you provide when compared to real world performance?
I'll take that one. That is a good question. So there's always going to be a gap between real world and simulated. And it really depends on the accuracy that is required for what we're doing, and also based on the costs involved, including the compute power needed to resolve the simulation. So generally speaking, just as a rule of thumb, if the items that we're modeling in our simulation are rigid, the fidelity gap is usually lower. Those are easier to model, less compute intensive. And then for flexible items, polybags and such, the items tend to be harder to model, and therefore the fidelity is lower. What we seek to do with our simulation is kind of get to the good enough state to provide an output that is sufficient for the application that we're looking at. And accordingly, we'll leverage the tools for simulation that give that price performance mix that are needed to get to a good enough level of fidelity. You can get to higher levels of fidelity on simulation, but there's sort of a diminishing return that occurs at a certain point.
And Stephen, what I'd like to add to that is in our organization, we have a team of simulation engineers that's working on system level simulations for the overall system, as well as a team of simulation engineers that are working directly on the robotic solutions to really model those out to a good amount of detail.
Yeah, that's good. Excellent point.
Okay, next question. What criteria do you use to determine the best solution for any given operation?
All right, thanks, Tracy. So in this case, it really depends on the application and what you're trying to accomplish. And here our consulting team really works with you closely to figure that out. But in general, we look at the performance versus alternative solutions or different options that I talked about before, taking a look at throughput capacity, technical viability, overall cost, and the return on investment or ROI that you can achieve. Other factors that we might include in our analysis are going to include footprint, how the solution options fit into the overall layout, the maintainability, and the level of synchronization with other automation solutions in the facility.
All right, next question is, how do you assess safety risks before robots are installed on site?
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. I'll take this one as well. So it's a good question. So Honeywell Intelligrated is deeply committed to safety in all that we do. And specifically from a robotics perspective, as was mentioned by Eric in his slides, we are certified RIA, Robotics Industries Association, and that comes with some requirements. So we have to perform safety risk assessments on all robotic systems, and that's prior to deployment. We are also required to get certain level of training for our engineers and our technicians who do deployments. And then we're audited on that training every couple of years. So we this is a high priority for us, and we make sure that we get a full safety risk assessment done on all systems prior to deployment.
All right, thanks. Next question is, how would you determine performance in a situation with unknown variables, such as a new type of packaging?
Okay, thanks, Tracy. So our robotic solution consulting teams have deep industry experience, drawing on the over 25 years of building and deploying robotic palletizing and depalletizing solutions. We have experience with a broad range of packaging materials and have field tested know-how on how to solve these, and also how to account for many other variables that you might encounter in this. So we incorporate this experience into our consulting process. In addition, what we talked about before, we have our simulation, and we model various packaging types in our simulations to highlight the trade-offs that come with using different types of tooling for tooling and or conveyance for these packages.
Okay, let's see. Next question is, can you use simulation to measure factors other than equipment performance, like the ideal length of worker breaks?
Yeah, so this is another great question on simulation, and I'd say that drawing back on the slides that we went over on our consulting services. So we offer robotic solution consulting, but that can be combined with other consulting services that our organization offers that look beyond just the robotic system to what's feeding the system, what's taking away from the system, how the overall solution and what it touches, how they interact together. So for example here, a time and motion study might be something we would look at if we're looking to kind of the human factor and worker breaks and things like that. Again, tied back to the robotic consulting services and how it feeds and takes away from the robotic cell. But certainly we offer a full range of consulting services that can look beyond.
All right, well, I think that is all the time we're going to have for questions today. And so we'd like to thank all of our audience members for their participation. If we were unable to answer your question during today's live event, we'll send you a response via email. And as a reminder, within approximately 48 hours after this live event, you can access this presentation on demand at intelligrated.com/on the move. And you'll also receive an email with a link to the presentation, as well as one of our white papers titled The Business Case for Robotics in Distribution Centers. On behalf of Honeywell Intelligrated, thank you for attending today's On the Move webinar. Registration information for our next webinar will be available soon on our website at intelligrated.com/on the move. And we hope you can join us then. Have a great afternoon.